Hey there, entrepreneurs, and welcome to today's show. I am so grateful and so blessed to be joined by the incredible Keri Murphy, who is the CEO and founder of Inspired Living. And also, this is a part that I feel like we are very much aligned on, Keri, is that she's committed to empowering people all over the world to dream it, live it, be it. I also just found out she is an entrepreneur, a mompreneur, as I like to say it, international speaker, media expert, business mentor, seasoned entrepreneur, and we are going to have a lot to talk about. So thank you so much for joining me today, Keri.
Oh, you're so welcome, Michelle. I'm excited. So much for us to talk about.
I know. Well, let's start off. I always love to start off with hearing a little bit more background and giving the audience some vision into your journey. So start with us there, especially anything that has to do with adversity or resilience, given where we are right now in the podcast.
Oh, there's a whole lot. I think we both had said earlier on that I don't know of one successful entrepreneur that hasn't had a road full of a lot of potholes and bumps along the way. So I have a very similar story. But I grew up in Oregon. I'm the middle child of three girls. My poor dad, he had three girls and we did get a male dog for him at one point. But you know what's so funny, Michelle? When I think about what I do now, which is really helping entrepreneurs be seen, be known, and be paid for the unique brilliance they bring to the marketplace. As a little girl, I would always find like the person in the back of the room with their head down, and I would just see potential in people. And I love discovering and helping people cultivate like their talent, their gifts. And so that's been me since I was a little girl. I started, I want to say, I air quotes modeling because, back in the 80s, it was like mannequin modeling in windows and like a couple J.C. Penney runway shows. So
that's funny.
I can't even really say the word modeling, but I grew up with a lot of entertainment in my family. My grandmother was a professional singer. She looked like Marilyn Monroe. I mean, stunning woman. And my uncle's a musician. Funny that I married one, but so I've always had like this affinity towards entertainment. And so I remember like probably being my daughter's age, my daughter's 6, I started asking my mom, like, I want to be on TV. I want to sing. I want to do this. And so she waited till I was 11, the most awkward age humanly possible on the planet.
Exactly.
Oh my God. So awkward, like braces 3 times, a couple bad perms. But I went into modeling and acting school. And why this is so important is because I ended up buying that agency at 27. So, here I am 11 years old, learning how to be on a runway and, be on camera. And I will never forget looking back at my video, because that's what we did in acting class, right? Like we would do something and then the teacher would have us play it back. The most mortified, like, could you put me in a more horrific situation than having to watch myself? And I remember literally like, oh my God. And I bring that up because, in my 40s now, that little girl never goes away. And so for the entrepreneur who says to herself, oh my gosh, like I look that way, I sound that way, I'm not pretty enough, tall enough, old enough, young enough. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was told, you need to lose 10 pounds, Keri. You're not blonde enough. You're not ethnic enough. You're not this enough. Like, what ethnicity are you? I'm like, what do you need me to be? And so growing up with that, like it took me a minute to really find and appreciate all that I am. And I think when we're looking at building our businesses, like that's the only thing we have to bring to the table is who we most authentically are. Yeah. And so I started my first business at 23. It was an interior design business. Nice. And even then I was using video to grow my business, like way before social media and websites. Who had that? I was on the local morning show as the interior design expert. Like I was always using video. I didn't realize it because it's just something I always had done. I'd always been on TV doing commercials and things like that. So fast forward, I'm 27. I'm bored. I'm working for myself, by myself, where most entrepreneurs find themselves, right? And so my mom called me one day, Michelle, and she said, Keri, there's a modeling agency for sale. And I said, Mom, that's great, but I would want to work with talent. Like I would want to work with actors because I love developing talent. She said, well, let me just call on it for you and I'll call you right back. 5 minutes later, she calls me back and she says, Keri, you won't believe who it is. And I said, it's Carol, isn't it? Now, you don't know who in the world Carol is, but Carol is the owner of the agency I went through as a little girl. Wow. So at 27, $15,000, my mom and I both put in to buy the agency, took it from about 150,000 to almost 800,000 when I had to close it. Now we're going to the adversity part. Yeah. I had to close it, in 2008. Now I know for 2020, a lot of people lost their business or they lost their way. And what I want to say is that sometimes God, universe, like we have to lose something in order to gain something so
Yes.
much better.
Yes.
And so looking back at that time, I was the most, for a minute, because I'm pretty resilient and I have faith, but I will say for a hot second there, I was pretty broken. I had lost the agency, which was at that point my identity, right? Building
Yeah.
it between 27 and 33. I didn't have a backup plan. You know, I was a big fish in a small town. I was known for what I did, not for who I was anymore. You know what I mean? And so when I lost the agency, I really lost myself. But what I will say is that, you know, the old saying, when a door closes, a window opens. The thing is, the window opens, but you actually have to look at the window. So
You actually do notice it. Yes.
you have to look at it. So in 2008, when the agency was literally dying, what it felt like the slowest death, like I'm like, where's the money? Like, what's happening? I had no mentors, no coaches, no idea what the heck I was doing. Like, I built the agency just off of pure passion and loving what I did. I never invested in mentorship. I never had someone to turn to until it was too late. And I'm like, holy bleep, like, I'm going to lose this agency. I don't have any money left, right? But that same year, I got my first national hosting job on the Golf Channel. I was an MTV maid coach because I had coached a Miss America and they sought me out. And so here I am. I signed with an LA agency, one of the top agencies, and Jeff Probst, the host of Survivor, introduced me to his agent. And he said, Keri, when are you moving to LA? And I'm like, I'm not moving to LA. He's like, yes, you are. I'm like, no, I have the agency. You know, she told me I can just like commute and go back and forth. He's like, we'll see. I'd kid you not. 3 months later, I'm living in Los Angeles. I had to close the agency doors. I had to file bankruptcy. I moved 7 times in 3 years.
Wow.
I was doing any job I could to make ends meet. I was, you know, at 33, which could be 93 in LA, you know, calling my mom for gas money. It was the most humbling.
Yes.
This is pre-inspired living, like the most humbling 3 years. Like I was eating the most humble pie. I mean, being a roommate in situations that no one would want to be in. And here I am, like I've owned homes, I've owned businesses, and I found myself like really back at the bottom. But the beautiful thing about that, Michelle, as I look back now, is I did a ton of personal development and it really got me to figure out who Keri was and what I wanted to do. And, you know, with the agency, I was developing all this talent, which I love, but I wasn't fulfilling my highest good. You know, like I wasn't doing what I truly am gifted at doing. And I feel like now, and I hope someone can really relate to this because again, it's Steve Jobs who says you can't connect the dots in front of you. You can only connect them behind you.
Exactly.
And I look back and like, I could not have even put those dots together. Like how divine that is that I'm doing what I do now. I told you before we went live here that growing up in Oregon, my room literally was palm trees and dolphins and oceanscapes. And I lived in Oregon where pine trees were outside my door.
Exactly.
And here I am living in Southern California, you know, by the beach, palm trees and dolphins. And I'm not saying every day is rainbows and lollipops. I'm a mompreneur. Let me tell you, there are many days I want to pull my hair out.
Exactly.
But I just want to say, like, it's all brought me to the most divine place. And I think sometimes the struggle, as we all know, creates the story. And that it's really important that people understand, like, no one is born with the success gene. There are highs and lows in everyone's journey. And I think the importance of belief in yourself is one of the most important things we hold, you know?
Yeah. I mean, number one, you may not know this about me, but I was a theater music person too, and went through agencies.
I can feel that. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So when you're telling the story, I'm like, oh yeah, like, what do I be? Who am I? Who do you need me to be at this moment? How much weight do you need me to lose? Like, all of those things. And, you know, and something that you said that was really, really hit home, at least with me, and I'm sure with our listeners too, was the people around you being more connected with what you were doing than who you were. Right. And those kind of moments of, well, I'm on this and I'm doing this and look at my kind of roster of accomplishments.
Right.
And as I like to call myself, maybe a recovering overachiever, but I don't know if that's true. You know, like you do get lost.
We are two birds of a feather. Yes.
Good God. But I think it speaks volumes of you that you said, you know, when you get to a point when, and again, that moment that you described, you're calling your mom for gas money, you don't know when the next thing is coming from. It is a true identity crisis.
Yes.
Like if anyone
Yes.
who's never been in one of those situations, like it rocks your identity to the core. And
Yeah.
and you're exactly right. It affords you the opportunity to kind of get really clear on the who am I piece and what is it that I want. I want, not
What do
everybody
I
else
want?
wants. I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I really was able to like take the time. Well, I had the time, right, to figure
Yeah.
out. And what's so funny is when I look back, like going through things like Landmark, I became a trainer and I traveled around the world and taught neurolinguistics and quantum physics and things that I would not teach today, but things that shaped who I am today.
Right.
And I look at those experiences and go, oh my gosh, like how that shaped who I am now. And, and then I met a spiritual intuitive that when I was pregnant with my daughter, Lauren, I was a single mom. For 3 years, I built Inspired Living by myself, no family around, just doing the hustle. And I met this amazing spiritual guide. Her name's Sabrina Rising, and she's one of my best friends today. And I was like, the people come in at the right time, at the right place, and you have to be open, though. I think that's the key,
absolutely.
is that you have to be open. And like I said, the whole time the agency was literally like dying, like, oh my gosh, I'm holding on to it with everything that I have. And yet all these windows were opening. And I'm like, I'm not looking over there. I'm not going to do that. No, I got a door over here,
Right. Right. You were too busy holding on and paying attention to how
With
hard you were holding on
yes,
to
for my
release
life. Yes.
and capitalize on the other things. And that is such an
Yeah.
important, lesson for our listeners to hear, because how many of us have held on to something way beyond its expiration date
Way longer.
in hopes, but you're exactly right. We wrap our identities up in it, or there's
Yeah.
something that's, not done brewing or something like that with that loss
Yeah.
that allows us to release. But the minute you do, I'm a big believer that when you step onto the path you're supposed to be, the universe lines up to provide.
Always. Always, and we sit here and we go, gosh, why is this so hard? Or we sit in a situation so long because we're just so scared to let go.
Yeah.
We're so scared because we think the situation we are in is some sort of security where in fact, it's actually like bondage. You know what I mean? Like whether it's a relationship or a career or anything that you feel like you're not fulfilled. Like I will say what 2020 really did for me and continues to do this year is shows me every single day how precious life is, how fragile life is.
Yes.
My dad has been in the hospital for months, not with COVID, with something else. And, it's just like we have one life.
Yes.
Why are you not doing your most genius work on the planet? Why? Are you waiting for someone to tell you you're good enough,
Right.
that you're smart enough, that you are deserving? Like at the end of the day, only you can say, I am worth going after my dreams. And if your partner or friend or whatever don't get it, go get new friends. I'm not saying dump your husband, but I'm saying, you really have to look at like, I think especially as we get a little bit older, Michael, my husband, is like the purpose of life. He's a world-renowned saxophonist. And it's like, what's the meaning? And I'm like, isn't that such the question that I think at some point we all ask ourselves?
Yeah, no,
we're getting deep here. We're getting very
I know. Watch
philosophical.
out,
Yes.
folks. Watch out,
We're
folks.
supposed to be talking about video. Like, hello. But I think here's the thing. I think when you know all those, I don't know if we ever know the answer, but when we can feel in and we believe in ourselves and we're true to ourselves and we show up authentic and we're willing to be transparent, like that's where businesses grow.
Yes.
They don't grow in the trying to be perfect, trying to be someone you're not. Everything is video. Everything. And I've been teaching it for over a decade, but I'll tell you what, 2020 really showed us, like, this is where we live. And you either show up in a way that people can authentically connect with, or you are going to struggle a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think there's no truer words than what you just said right there, especially from a business perspective. Like I'm very much an advocate of keeping the personal in business because, as long as you've processed what you're putting out there, right? Because I know
Correct.
you and I, we've spoken about talking about maybe transparency versus authenticity when it comes to putting yourself on camera, when it comes to putting yourself out there, period. So give me your 2 cents about those two terms.
Well, for me, authenticity is how you show up. right? It's your mannerisms, it's your language. It should be so congruent. Like how I see you in person. Like if you and I were to go have lunch, it would be just like
Exactly.
this. There's
Yes,
no difference. Whether I'm on stage, I might be a little bit more animated because I feel the energy and I get super pumped.
exactly. Yeah.
But that's the same Keri. Like there's how I show up on camera is the same way I am off camera. And after being a TV host for like 10 years, I had to work on that because I would show up a little hosty and I'm like,
Exactly.
bring it to your belly. So
Yes.
authenticity to me is how you show up. Transparency is how much you share.
Exactly.
And we always hear the mess is in the message, right? And yes, it is. But when you are knee deep, or I should say up to your, chin in the mess, it is really hard to have the perspective to share it. And you
Yes.
just said that, right? Like,
Yep.
I absolutely agree that your story is the only thing that really makes you unique, and sharing it in a way that people can relate to, that they can see themselves in you, is so important. You look at brands like Spanx, I'm a big fan
Yes.
of Sarah
I
Blakely.
am too.
And
Yeah.
she's just so authentic and she's transparent. Now, I'm guarantee you she's not sharing every fight she has with Jesse,
No.
right? But she is sharing a bit of the mess because do we not relate as mompreneurs, like to see Sarah with her 4 kids? I'm like, you get it. Like her hair's a mess or whatever. And you're like, she's a real person. People want to do business with people, not things. So the
Exactly.
more you can show up as a human being, right? And share, like I share my bankruptcy story. I share I was a single mom. Like, could I share it at the moment I was going through it? Like I had to kind of get my
Yeah.
own feet stable before, because here's the thing. I think you should share a story when it can help someone else. And oftentimes it doesn't benefit anyone when you're still going through it yourself. Now, I'm not saying that you can't share that you're going through something traumatic or you're going through a hard time. People relate to that. Who was it that was just sharing? Rachel. Oh man, give me a second. It doesn't matter. Anyway, she was sharing that she was going through a divorce. And, that was very personal.
Hard.
And
Yeah.
all her fans showed up like, we're with you. And I think that's okay, but you're not going to share every single thing you're going through.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I've had people say to me, well, why haven't you
Hollis,
said
Rachel
this?
Hollis,
Rachel
it's
Halda.
coming.
Yes,
Thank
with
you.
all of her
Okay.
stuff. Yes, yes.
Yes.
And I've had people say, well, you've been through so much, but you're not documenting all of it. If you're telling us to be honest and authentic. And I was like, well, if you'd like me to document when I'm on a ball having a panic attack on my floor,
Right.
like, I don't know how useful that's going to be to anybody. Also I'm a big believer in what you just said. You have got to process
Yes.
whatever that stuff is, because it's part of also like that hero's journey, right? If you
Yeah.
can't complete the cycle and then step forward and teach what you've learned, you're only giving 3/4 of the lessons when it comes to that. And also I think there's not a lot of value, at least to me, in me being a complete disaster in delivering the message. And
Yeah.
some of the things, they're hard. Life is hard.
Life is hard. Yeah. And again, I think it's important that, we are transparent as business owners and as leaders. Like,
Yeah.
again, we want to be the guide, not the hero in our
Yes.
businesses. So helping other people see themselves in your journey is important. And I think it is timing. You could say, hey
Yes.
guys, I'm going through a divorce. I need a little space. I'm going to take some time to process what's going on right now. I might be a little raw and a little more vulnerable, during this time,
Exactly.
but I just want to let you know. So, because I might not be as present right now. Like, that's a totally cool way to put
And
that
people
out
will
there.
respect that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Instead of going through all the things that you're going through, because that's a lot for people. Here's
It
the thing.
is.
When you're sharing your mess, other people have to hold it, right?
Exactly. They hold space
And it's
for it.
just
Exactly.
it's an energy exchange, and that can be heavy for people.
Mhm.
So I just think it really depends on you. It depends on your tribe. It depends on what you do, all of those
Yeah.
things.
No, and I
Yeah.
like the way that you explained authenticity as well, because it's exhausting. And I think all of us have probably had that experience where, like, for me, I had work Michelle, I had home Michelle, I had on camera Michelle, I had this
Yeah.
Michelle. Like,
Yeah. Like, which one am I
it's
showing up as today?
exhausting. It's
Yes.
so exhausting after a while. And you can't, I'm sorry, but after all, you can't keep track of all the narratives. You can't keep track of who you're showing up as when.
Which hat am I
I
wearing
know. I'm like,
today?
and then,
Yes.
the world got a lot messier in 2020 where everything became integrated. So I'm a big
Mhm.
believer in what you just said is who you
Yeah.
see me here is who you'll see, maybe with a couple more swears. And like you said, a little bit more animated after a couple drinks, but I mean, it's
But it's the
essentially the same
same. I mean,
thing.
we've all seen people that are one way in the public and another way like behind closed doors. And I'm also I always get a little like disheartened when I hear of someone that I really admired for their outward persona, but then you hear like how they are behind the scenes and you're like, really? That's how
Like,
they
come
are?
on.
That's how they treat their employees, or that's how they treat people. Like that's a real bummer. And I think that, none of us are perfect, but I think that to be congruent with how you show up in the world is important. It's important to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially nowadays, like to bring it back to video, I was having a conversation with a client yesterday and we were doing this and I was talking her through and she needed to put out a video. And I said, don't you dare get your makeup on, get your hair done, get all your stuff. I was like, just get on the damn camera. I'm like,
Yeah.
because again, if people can't see themselves in you, and plus it's such a video society that, they may not be able to resonate as deeply with you in that case.
Yeah. And that's interesting too, because we also at Inspired Living, like we talk about that so much. Like I launched a beauty line, right? Where we have
Yeah.
the eye kit and we're going to be launching so many other things
Good.
because my clients would ask me forever, like, Keri, like I have no idea how to do my makeup, and I want to feel good. And I think that's
Yeah,
important
that's
that when you
different.
press
Yeah.
record, you feel good,
Right.
and makeup, no makeup, hair, no hair. It's like, what makes you feel good when you
Exactly.
press record? Because you're not showing up for anyone else. I mean, you are, don't get me wrong, but so the narrative that you will be going through if you don't like the way you look or you don't
Right.
like all of those things, it's a
Yep.
difficult one to work through. So I'm like, go do you, get ready, do what you need to do, and then show up and
Yeah.
speak to one person at a time. Michelle, if there's any
Thank you.
golden advice I can give people, it is stop trying to talk to everyone. In fact, please don't start your videos with, hey, everyone, because we are in like right now, it is you and me, but we know there's
Right.
going to be a lot of people listening, a lot of people watching. But at any moment, there's only one person listening
Yeah.
and one set of eyeballs watching. So
Yeah.
the more you make me, you, me, right? Make me feel like you're talking to me, the more you're going to connect, the more you're going to convert, all of those fancy C words, right? So, establish credibility, all of those
Mhm.
things. So speak to one person and you have to know this person like you
Yes.
know her, like you know her, like you know her or him, right? You're speaking through the camera lens. You're not speaking
Mhm.
at a camera lens. It's not this inanimate object. It's a conduit that takes your words and your message into the heart and the eyes and the ears of the person watching. So it's really important. Like when you get that, there's a huge shift in our clients. Like when they come and work with me and I can tell that they do not know who they're talking to. And I will ask them, who are you talking to? And they say, I don't know. I'm like, I know you don't know,
Yeah.
because
I can
the
tell.
energy of what you're saying falls flat. It doesn't
Right.
transcend, right? It doesn't go through. You totally get this as someone who's done this too.
Yeah.
So when you know that one person, and what we teach people is demographics important, psychographic is what wins the game. Like understanding how someone feels when
Yes.
they're watching your video. Where are they at? What emotional state are they in? What are their struggles? What are their hopes? What are their dreams? When you know that and you speak into that, like people are like, shut the front door. Like she's
Yeah.
talking to me. How does she know? Like what exactly is going on in my brain? And people think it's magic, but it's just knowing your ideal avatar and speaking into her or him from that emotional connection. Because
Yes.
video is all about
It
emotional
is.
connection. And people spend so much time on their words, and the words do not matter. What
Oh.
matters is the emotion you're making me feel. So
Yeah.
stop. I mean, I am so against scripting. We teach our clients how to create a format,
Yeah.
so their thoughts are bullet pointed, so they
Good.
they have a flow. They don't get lost, but they're not thinking of their next word, because you cannot, unless you're a trained actor, right? You cannot be in your head and in your heart at the same time.
No.
It's impossible. So
It is. It is. And what you just said right there is like the number one thing that was hammered into our head in school too, was the point of art, and video is an art, is to evoke
yes,
emotion,
a
period.
thousand percent, the
End
number
sentence.
one thing. Yes, yes,
So to your point, thank you also for saying that don't script the whole thing out, because I've had
oh,
coaches who will say write it all out and paste it to the corner of your laptop, and I was like,
are
I
you kidding me? Do
I
you
can
think
see,
the
oh my
whole
goodness,
time?
Yeah, your
We're gonna
eyes, I
just
can
see.
see it. Boom, boom. And I'm like, okay, I can now tell where exactly your script is located. And I would rather see someone fumble through something and stare directly at me
1,000%.
than read it.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about this. Every time you look away from the camera, you break rapport, right?
Exactly.
It's like sitting down with a person, and every time they're getting ready to talk, they look at their phone.
Yeah.
So annoying.
Yeah.
Like, please don't do that. Like, please don't script and then put it up there and think that we don't see that.
Because we
I,
do.
I agree. You're better off like bullet point your thoughts. You could put a little sticky note so you have like a couple bullet points, totally fine. But remember, every time you look away, you're breaking trust with the person watching.
Yeah.
And we know if you're reciting something that you've memorized, don't try to memorize because we know.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, if you're not authentic, here's the statistic that'll blow your mind. 3 seconds. You have 3 seconds to keep and capture someone's attention when they press play. So if you're not emotionally connected with that person, if you're not speaking into them, if you're talking all about you and you're scripted, like, bye-bye. No one's staying.
Yeah. 3 seconds. And I'd be surprised if it wasn't quicker than that.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I mean, we are in an ADD society. We're in, content overload. There is no lack of content, but there is lack of congruency. There's lack of authenticity, a lot of talking heads, a lot of people trying to use video, but they don't know who they are. And if you don't know who you are, then how do you possibly show up authentic? You can't, right? So if you're trying to be like someone else because you see them on social and you think they're cool and this is working for them, so I'm just going to put that facade on and wear that for a day, people see right through that,
No, and it's a hard pattern to break. Like, I don't know about
Yeah.
you, but I found myself all of a sudden, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not in alignment. And how did I just do that? Like, and I didn't even
Yeah.
feel it coming because there is such a heavy amount of information and communication coming at us that sometimes you will fall out of that. And you need to just be able to realign back. And I'll guarantee if you look at your metrics that you can probably tell where you fell out as well.
Yeah.
From a
Yes,
video
it is
standpoint.
so true. I mean, when I post a reel or I do something a little more goofy or I show my kids, we produce all this beautiful curated content. And I'll tell you, it's the most raw behind the scenes stuff that people love. So
Exactly.
that's something to
Exactly.
remember too. I think it's a combination of both. Like you have the professional stuff for positioning. Like I'm positioned in my industry because for the last 10 years, right, I've put out a certain level of content.
Right.
But also it's the behind the scenes. I will tell you, this is the first year ever that I've posted selfies with no makeup. And I will say there's a little bit of filter. I will say a tiny one though.
But that makes you feel better. That makes you feel better.
It makes me feel better. But I will say the outpouring from women, like, because I've always been glam. I started wearing eyeliner when I was 11. Like I like looking a certain way for me.
Right.
And so for me to show up without makeup, really, I mean, to some person, it's like no big deal. It was a big deal for me. And just to put it out there, be like, hey, I'm gonna share this. And to get the feedback of, oh my gosh, thank you so much. You're so beautiful without makeup, all of these things. Again, it allows other people to connect with you in a different way. That's all.
And I think you're also, speaking of them holding the space for you, you're holding the space to give somebody permission to do it as well. So when you stepped forward with that and, took the makeup off or, whoever is out there listening and you're
terrifying, terrifying.
It is terrifying. Not going to lie. There's been many a picture I've taken and I'm like, oh, hell no, that's not going anywhere.
That is not going to be posted.
That is not flattering. And again, that's not because I'm trying to impress people. That's because I don't feel good about it.
That's right.
It's a distinct difference.
Absolutely right. Yes. Yeah. And I will say, when you grow up in, that environment of constantly being critiqued or like I can't thousands of photos I've had taken of me. Like I now look at myself with a very discerning eye. I don't know about you. And same with my videos. I look at my videos like a director, like, okay, that's good. That's okay. Like that, I didn't love that. That wasn't as connected. Yeah. And I think that comes, I always say video's a muscle. Right? Whatever we do, it's building that muscle, building that confidence. Confidence comes from doing, by the way, not thinking, not listening. Like you got to do the thing to build the muscle. Like you can't think about going to the gym and get leaner. Like you actually have to go do the work, right? I wish me too.
Do we all wish that, folks?
Yes. Can I just believe that in?
Think of a yoga body. We'll be cool.
Right. Exactly. All good. So I think this is so important because people are so scared to show up, but it's in showing up that you actually get confident in your message, right? It's showing up that you'll have someone reach out to you and go, oh my God, you made my day. Thank you so much for sharing that. You have no idea how much that helped me. And I'll tell you, that's what keeps me going is putting things out. Even if just one person says, thank you for that. That made my day. You inspired me. That was super helpful. that fills my gas tank and I keep going. Right. So
Yeah. Yeah. And you never know
yeah,
where that's going to come from either,
yeah,
folks,
yeah. You
because,
don't know.
people are like, well, no one needs to hear from me. Oh, they do though.
They
They do.
do.
And everybody, because of the way that we're operating in society, is always listening, always watching. There's been so many times where I put things out or my clients have put things out where we're like, oh, no one reacted to that. And then I'm getting emails or people stopping me wherever
Yeah.
I am. And you never know who needs to hear it or who's in
Yes.
a jam that needs to hear it.
1,000%. And I say, like, people will stalk you for
Yes,
a very
they
long time.
will. Yes,
They
they
won't
will.
like you. They won't comment on your stuff, but they're watching. And
Yes.
that's what's important. And, I say there's 4 C's to really building a successful business when it comes to video. And I've already shared some of them, but the first one, as we talked about, is connection.
Yes.
Really establishing, where's my person? Where, who am I speaking to? Why am I speaking to them? Understanding why you're the one to deliver the message, right? So that emotional connection is number one, because without it, you can't grow.
Yeah.
Two is consistency. You must be consistent. Now, here's the funny thing. People are like, well, I did a live once, or, you know what, I went live every day for 30 days and nothing happened. And I'm like, okay, first of all, don't go live every day for 30 days. But
Yeah.
it's like they try something, they don't get an instant result, so they go on to the next thing. Biggest mistake an entrepreneur can make. In fact, what got me to 7 figures is doing the same thing over and over again. Now, as a visionary and a quick start, it's a little bit painful for me because
Yes.
I am
Yeah.
an idea person.
Me too.
But I think when you have something that works and you keep working that thing, and that doesn't mean you can't be creative and you can't do other things,
Yeah.
but as entrepreneurs, we're so quick to give up.
Yeah.
And impatience kills dreams more than anything else, more than talent, more than ability, more than anything else. Impatience. So saying, look, I'm going to put out a video every week. Come hell or high water. I don't care. I'm going to put out regular content. I'm going to go live once a week
Exactly.
at this time on this page. Like, you start building the third C, which is credibility.
Yes.
Right. So consistency lends then to credibility, because you keep talking about what you're doing in a way that people start to listen. And then when you have credibility, you have conversion. When people trust you, they will buy from you. But you can't do a video or show up once or do a thing and be like, where's all the money at? Like, where are my
Yeah.
people? Like, it
Yeah.
takes time. Like, building a brand is a marathon and is not a sprint. So you have to be like, how can I show up to serve someone on a regular basis? And I will tell you, Michelle, it's like one of the biggest mistakes when I ask entrepreneurs, what's your marketing plan? How are you advertising? What are you doing to get yourself out there every single week? I don't have one. I don't have one. Oh, no, I don't invest in that. No, I don't do that. Okay. And then you're frustrated because you're not making money.
Yeah.
You feel like the best kept secret, all those things. So you can
Yeah.
tell I get a little passionate about this
Well,
topic.
yeah, because it's worth getting passionate about, because I think
Yeah.
any marketer who's listening right now is like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because,
Yes.
and
Yes.
30 days, people will even say, well, I did it for 30 days. That's not long enough. That's not long enough
That's
to
not long
gauge
enough.
market
Yeah.
reaction. That's not long enough to, get the momentum up as well and deliver your message, especially in a noisy marketplace that we're in right now. And also, I just want to reinforce what you just said about having that strategy and having that as part of your plan, because I think it's extremely powerful if you can have a visibility strategy, marketing plan, however you want to call it, plus
Yep.
rev gen strategy, and you marry the
Yes.
two. You cannot
Yes.
have
Oh my
one in a
gosh.
silo without the other.
Music to my ears. That's right.
Yes.
I always tell people, like, you can't be great on camera and not have any conversion strategy, systems, automation, all of those things, right? And I have people say, well, I'm comfortable on camera. I'm like, great. Well, how is that converting for you? Are your videos actually converting to clients and sales for you? Like, okay, no. I'm like, okay. So we talk about the same thing, Michelle. Like, what is your conversion strategy every month? How are you driving revenue? How are you driving traffic? And of course, women, we hear, I don't like to sell. I don't want to sell.
I hear all
I'm
the
like, well,
time.
look, if you want to make an impact on the planet,
Yeah,
right?
you
And
need
you
money.
want to have a business, like, you have to tell people what you do and give them an opportunity
Yeah.
to buy from you, right? So I'm like, it really comes down to helping people get what they need. And in return, I mean, it's just an energy exchange. You're going to give
Yes.
value, and in return, they're going to give you money. That's what happens, right?
Exactly. And the more
Yeah.
money you make, the bigger impact that you can put out in the world is kind of the way that,
Amen. That's
you
exactly
know,
how I feel.
I've had that conversation with clients and myself, to be fully transparent on that,
Yeah. Yeah.
that you really do make an income when you do really make a larger impact, the more money you get. And then also, to your point, it is an energy exchange. And we all know
Yeah.
how it feels to be on a one-sided energy exchange ourselves. So
Yeah.
don't create that model in
Right.
general where somebody else walks into it. So, putting yourself out there from a conversion standpoint is key.
Totally. I mean, and you just said something that's really powerful. It's like, how you show up is a mirror for how other people will. So if you're like, hey, I'm going to discount my prices, I'm going to do this for
Yeah.
free. I don't believe we're all meant to be martyrs. I do believe very much in building social entrepreneurs and making money that you then give back. Like we give 10%
Yes.
back to charity. I give back to my church. Like I think it's very important to give back, but you have to have some money to give, right? And
Yeah.
I really feel like if we're going to see the societal changes in the world that I would like to see, we need more women sitting at the table that are making those
Yes.
decisions. And unfortunately, a lot of that comes down to wealth generation,
Mhm.
and if we are sitting there in scarcity and struggle, how do we show up in those conversations? How do we donate to causes that matter to us? How do we eradicate poverty and all of that? Don't get me started. Like it's
I
just,
know. I
I
know.
agree. I think that we have to look at, if we don't value ourselves, how are we helping other
Yeah.
people's value themselves? Right.
And you're not.
So
And as women, I think we're like, well, we don't want to be selfish or we don't want all the we don't want to be's, right? We got it. Fine. We're conditioned with a lot of them. I understand.
yes,
But
yes,
then look at it as you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the woman sitting next to you. You're doing it
that's right.
for, your kids, or you're doing it for whoever's listening to you on that video. Take you out of the equation if you have
Right.
to, but at least admit that there's a role that you're playing in this world and you're worthy of playing that role, and put it
Yes,
on camera so that other people, you can spark that fire where other people can put it out. And then, we will
that's
all
right.
together solve a lot more problems and start
Rise up
making
together.
money, a 4-letter word too,
Yes,
while we're at it.
yes, with you.
Wow. This is such a great conversation. Are there any other kind of last tidbits that you want to share with the audience? Because there's just so many valuable ones in here, but I always like to ask that just in case.
Well, you said something earlier that I just wanted to jump back to, which is, how often we discount like our message
Yeah.
and our worth in the marketplace. And I really don't believe in competition. There are what, 7.5, 8 billion people on the planet.
Yeah.
It's a global economy. There's room for you and there's need for you.
Yeah.
And when you say, oh yeah, but Rachel Hollis is already doing that, or so and so is already doing that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's enough people for you to serve and for you to grow your business. And your story is so unique and it's going to reach the right person, and so we have to just honestly get out of our own way so we can truly make the impact that we are here to make and that only we can make.
Yeah.
Your impact is different than mine, and my impact is different than someone else's. So like stop trying to compare yourself, apples to apples, and like make yourself a mango, like make
Yeah,
yourself
exactly.
uncomparable in the marketplace and you will thrive.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and can you imagine a world that we all lived like that, where we all
Oh,
showed up? It makes
be a
it,
beautiful place.
yeah, I just can't. And
Yeah.
I like to maintain the hope and the faith that that is what we are moving into. It may take us a while, but we will
Yeah.
get there. Well, tell
Yeah.
people where they can find you, Inspired Living, all of that good stuff. Cause I know you put out some pretty amazing content yourself. So
Oh, thank
tell
you
people
so
where they
much.
can
Well, I
find
will
you.
say one of the questions I get asked so much is, Keri, what type of equipment do I need? How do I set up my home studio, my home office? So we have a really beautiful Be Studio Ready guide that you can download. It's on the website, inspiredliving.tv, and it really walks you through like beginner equipment, more advanced, how to set everything up. So go grab that right now. And then, we have a private Facebook group where I hold a masterclass, Video Confidence and Conversion, and it's absolutely free. And the transformation is truly phenomenal. Like the results people get from attending is what truly, honestly, gets me up every day. So that private Facebook group is called Ignite Your IT Factor. And come join it and be a part of the Inspired Living community. We have over 6,000 people in the group, and it's just an amazing tribe. And we all hold the ladder for each other because there's room. There's room for everyone.
There is. And I'll make sure to put all this good stuff in the show notes as well, folks, in case, you have trouble finding it or anything like that. And Keri, thank you so much for being here with me today. Such a powerful message for our listeners.
Yes, thank you for having me. Really appreciate you and the message you're sharing as well.
Thank you.